My husband died unexpectedly while saving someone. For the sake of the orphan and widow in the family, as well as the 3 million yuan in usury, I took 5 jobs a day and even resorted to selling my blood and eggs. 5 years later, I finally paid off all the debts. Unexpectedly, I saw my dead husband hugging my best friend's waist and spending money lavishly in the mall. It turned out that he faked his death. He tricked me into paying off his debts, tricked me into raising his illegitimate child, and tricked me into taking care of his old mother. I was so angry that I died on the spot, unable to rest in peace. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day of my husband's fake death and cremation. You jinx. You troublemaker. It's you who caused my son to die young. Why wasn't it you who died? Poor my son for marrying such a promiscuous woman like you. You were flirting around outside right after giving birth. And you literally be mad with rage means anger to death, my poor son. Why is my life so hard? My mother-in-law, Gwen, kept crashing into me. And slaps landed on me one after another. I blankly touched my wet cheeks. Was I reborn? But before I could think more, Gwen made a dash and knocked me down to the ground. You heartless vixen. My son is gone. And you still have the nerve to laugh here? I smiled even more happily. I directly kicked over her wheelchair. Your son is gone. Not only can I laugh, but even if I hit you, no one dares to say a word against it. As I said that, I gave her 2 hard slaps. You old hag. In my previous life, I took care of her, carrying her feces and urine, and endured her beatings and scoldings for a whole year. She never gave me a good look, and she even brainwashed me every day that Zachary's death was my fault. It's so hateful that I was so stupid and actually believed her words. I coaxed, doted on, and indulged her as if she were the apple of my eye. But in fact, it was just a play they staged together. Only I was kept in the dark like a clown. You little brat. Have you got the guts of a bear and a leopard? I'm your mother. And you actually dare to lay a hand on an elder. Are you even human? Everyone, come and take a look. My son has just passed away. And she treats me, an old woman, like this. In the future, in my previous life, I was beaten and scolded by her so much. I directly slapped her 2 more times in return. If you still can't shut your mouth, I'll feed you shit when we go back tonight. Gwen's wailing stopped abruptly. She just stared at me with a look of anger but dared not speak. After a while, a person who seemed to be a staff member handed me an urn. In my previous life, I was really blinded by greed. I actually believed that such a young hoodlum with pink hair was a staff member at the crematorium. Without hesitation, I opened it. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Ah. So the ashes are light yellow. And there's a faint milky scent. Seeing the watchdog not far away, I turned my hand and poured the ashes into the basin of water. In less than half a minute, the dog licked it clean. What brand of ashes is this? The dog seems to like it. I'll buy more next time to feed the stray dogs. Gwen seemed not to expect that I would do this and was completely stunned. It took her a long time to shakily point her finger and curse. You heartless, hutting fraudulent, black-hearted, venomous woman with black blood. How dare you treat Zachary like this? You won't die a good death. I suddenly understood and pursed my lips. You should have said you were envious earlier. Here, there's still some. The crumb-like milk powder residue was instantly scattered on her face in the wind. The next second, a sharp explosion sounded in my ears. I turned my head and saw. I had forgotten about this bitch. Before I could think, I jumped up and used the urn to crack her head open. Sandy, with blood all over her face, angrily questioned me. I specially came to accompany you. What do you mean by this? I blinked my eyes innocently. Perhaps. Do you know the Nijka reflex? In my previous life, these 2 scoundrels colluded with each other. And one lie after another made me be kept in a confused state. Fortunately, had in I have a chance to do it all over again. This time, I will definitely make them pay 1,000, or even 10,000 times the price. Sandy was so angry that she was shaking. After calming herself down for a while, She managed to put on a look of grievance with a dark face. "You're so careless. My head hurts so much. Call an ambulance quickly." As soon as the words fell, she fell to the ground gracefully. I ignored her and turned around, pushing Gwen's wheelchair swaggeringly, and left. Did she really think I would send her to the hospital? She was daydreaming. If she has the guts, she can call the police and arrest me for intentional injury and hit and run. I want to see who will raise her son for her and who will take care of the old woman for her then. After all, these two scoundrels didn't hesitate to fake death in order to get rid of this responsibility. How could they call the police and arrest me for such a trivial matter? Venomous woman. You really have a heart of stone. Sandy was so good to you. But you treated her so brutally. You didn't even care about her and just let a lonely and weak woman like her lie here in the middle of nowhere. Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? Gwen turned her head back every few steps, and her eyes seemed to want to eat me alive. People who didn't know might think that was her biological daughter. I smiled and shrugged. You're in my hands now. You'd better worry about yourself while you have the time. When Gwen arrived home in a cargo van, I had just put to sleep the 7-month-old baby. Although the child is innocent, but her parents personally killed my child, and I really can't face his existence. Sandy and I were best friends for 10 years. We went from campus to society and regarded each other as family. She said that marriage is the grave of love, so she wanted to live a carefree life. And because I grew up in an orphanage, my biggest dream was to have a family. But a year ago, she came to me crying and said she was pregnant but never meant and the father of the child. I felt sorry for her and, despite my husband's opposition, insisted that she live in my house so that we could keep each other company. But I didn't expect that I was inviting a wolf into the house. She had already hooked up with my husband. I was just a part of their happy play. Our due dates were only 2 days apart. Unfortunately, I accidentally fell and gave birth prematurely. And the child was gone. And soon after, she successfully gave birth to a baby boy. Before she even finished her confinement period, she left a letter and the baby in the swaddling clothes and left. She said that the child was my life and the hope for me to live on. But for her, he was a shackle and a burden. She left and would never come back in this life. This child would only have one mother. And that was me. I cried my eyes out. I cherished this child as if he were the apple of my eye and tried my best to give him the best. But who would have thought that 5 years later, when I was working as a cleaner in the mall, I saw my husband who had been dead for 5 years and my best friend who had disappeared for 5 years, arm in arm and spending money lavishly. Husband, you're so smart. With just this play, that fool has raised our son for 5 years, taken care of our mother for 5 years, and allowed us to live a good life where we can earn hundreds of thousands of you on a month without doing anything. I secretly took a look. Our son is so sensible. And our mother is glowing with health. Our son is old enough to remember things now. After a few more carefree months, our family will be reunited. I play? At that time, there were only these 3 words in my mind. The past flashed before my eyes like a movie. One of Zachary's words became the last straw that broke the camel's back. That's because you really have good judgment and found a promising stock like me. Thanks to my foresight back then, I managed to make that shrew have a miscarriage. Otherwise, our family wouldn't be living such a good life. I instantly collapsed to the ground. They had deceived me so badly. I was so angry, and I couldn't catch my breath and was actually angered to death, on the spot, unable to rest in peace. In a trance, I feigned to hear Gwen's voice. Zachary. Sandy. We finally managed to get rid of this unlucky woman. We can finally be a family again this time. It was only at the last moment before I died that I realized that I had been deceived by the 3 of them working together. I think you're really crazy. It's bad enough that you're torturing an old woman like me. But you actually sent away the baby who's only a few months old? That's your own son. I gently waved the money in my hand. So what? I feel sorry for this child. But who felt sorry for my child who was just 1 step away from coming into this world and taking a look around? Moreover, I'm too busy to handle everything right now. And there are more important things for me to do. So I entrusted the child to the headmistress of the orphanage. I believe that staying there will be better than staying in this home that could explode at any moment. Gwen obviously mistook it for me selling the child. I didn't deny it either. Looking at her angry but dare not speak expression, I was extremely satisfied. As soon as I turned around, she was so anxious that she almost stood up from the wheelchair to find her precious grandson, whom she regarded as the apple of her eye. But in reality, after struggling for a long time, she unfortunately fell on the ground in a sorry state. I flicked my hair and just pretended not to see it, letting her struggle on the ground. After there were only the two of us left at home, I vigorously searched out all the passwords of her bank cards and, as a matter of course, started spending her pension and her life savings. One day, I was lying on the sofa, eating the extremely expensive imported fruits when the door was suddenly banged on so loudly that it shook the sky. A glimmer of light flashed in Gwen's vicious eyes, and she looked at me expectantly. After waiting for so long, they finally came. When I opened the door, I saw the corridor, blocked by burly men with tattoos. "Are you Zachary's wife?" I nodded and was just about to ask what was wrong. Then I saw a group of them walk into the house as if they were at home, looking around without paying any attention to others. The burly man sitting on the sofa slapped a piece of paper hard on the table and said viciously, "Zachary borrowed 3 million yuan from us to do business. But he lost everything. Now that he's dead, this debt will have to be on your head." I collapsed to the ground as if struck by lightning. But inside, I couldn't help but laugh. The extras that Zachary hired for 50 yuan a day aren't very good either. Why is the debt collector sweating so much when the debtor hasn't even said anything? It's so hateful that I was blind in my previous life. Just with these words, I was so scared that I knelt down one by one and kowtowed, just begging them to give me a few more days, in order not to alert the enemy. I cried and begged them to give me a few more days. "Look, considering how pitiful you are, I'll give you another half month. Otherwise," I saw that the person speaking looked very uncomfortable. But he still took a deep breath and forced himself to say harsh words, "Otherwise, this house can also be sold for a good price if we tear it down." After they left, I buried my head and cried bitterly. Gwen rarely comforted me, saying, "Don't worry, Jade, we'll get through this together. We have hands and feet. I don't believe that we can't pay off just 3 million yuan. You idiot. Just 3 million yuan. You know. His son's fixed monthly salary used to be only 2,500 yuan. What should we do? What on earth should we do? What are we supposed to do?" My shoulders were trembling, and I was at a loss. "Mom has thought it over. You can work 5 jobs in a 24 a day, and I'll take a sound system and go begging under the bridge. Sooner or later, we'll be able to save enough money." I still remember that she said the same thing in my last life. I also remember that at that time, with tears in my eyes, I made a bold promise: I'd rather work 10 jobs than let you go begging. Now the situation has reversed. I took out the trolley speaker on which I had already downloaded the song, "The Dedication of Love," and a notice that detailed the touching story of how my son owed 3 million yuan, died heroically while saving someone, leaving behind an orphan who was only 3 months old, a paralyzed mother in her 60s, and a wife who was pregnant. Then I directly called a La Move truck to send her to the overpass with the largest flow of people. And I went straight to the detention center. Calculating the days, he was just getting out of prison today. I don't know what happened, but Gwen seemed to have changed her personality. At first, I had to carry her to go begging as if I were slaughtering a pig. But now she deliberately dresses up every day and is full of anticipation. It wasn't until she brought a middle-aged man home that I suddenly understood. So, she was having a late-life romance. "Jade, you must be hungry. I'll go and cook right away." Gwen tidied her hair and tried her best to show her qualities as a good wife and mother. She was almost clinging to this man. "Jade. What a beautiful name. Who gave you this name?" The middle-aged man looked at me with a strange expression, as if he was determined to get to the bottom of it. "She doesn't know. She's an orphan. But luckily, she married into our family, and I've treated her like my own daughter." Gwen poked her head out of the kitchen and made a teasing remark as if she were taking credit. The middle-aged man became even more excited when he heard this. He even directly held my hands tightly. I was really frightened. I thought to myself that Gwen really had a bad eye for men. Actually bringing back a lecture. So, without saying a word, I drove him out. But that man was as stubborn as a stone in a latrine. He seemed to want to stay in my house. So I directly chased him downstairs with a broom. "If you don't leave, I'll call the police," I warned him with a serious face. But unexpectedly, having fulfilled my upset, he knelt down straight in front of me. "Jade, you have no idea how I've lived these decades. I've been looking for you so hard. What about this talk of brother and sister?" I didn't believe a single word of it. But when he asked me with red eyes if there was a rabbit-shaped birthmark on my lower back, I hesitated. No one is born an orphan. I'm no exception. But I'm not a 3-year-old child. At this moment, a so-called brother suddenly appeared. And of course I didn't believe it. But he said, "Whether you believe me or not, you definitely can't stay in this den of wolves now. That 3 million yuan is also a trap set by your scumbag Huz, and who faked his death to deceive you. Maybe you won't believe it. But actually, I've been reborn. In my last life, when I found you, you had already been driven to death by that scoundrel. Later, I ate vegetarian food and chanted Buddhist scriptures for decades, praying every day that the heavens would give me another chance to atone for my past mistakes. That's why we're finally able to meet now." He talked a lot. The more he talked, the more anxious he became, afraid that I would turn around and leave impatiently. As he spoke, he also tightened his grip on the hem of my clothes. Before I knew it, tears had wet my cheeks. No wonder I had a chance to start over. It turned out that there was still someone in this world who thought of me. "Brother." The person opposite me suddenly raised his head and then responded with an excited yes. "This is the money I've saved. Take it and go far away. I'll avenge you for this grudge." "Little sister." I held his hand tightly and slowly shook my head. He hesitated. "Could it be that you still have feelings for him?" "No. I want to see with my own eyes his downfall. My biological mother suffered from postpartum depression. When I was just a few months old, she confused left me at the gate of the welfare institution. She unfortunately passed away in a car accident on that very day. My family had been searching for me for decades. My biological father died with his eyes wide open, entrusting my brother to find me no matter what. So, he drove a taxi all over the country and didn't get married even when he was 40 years old. My brother said that the whole family loved me very much and was looking forward to the day of our reunion. Unfortunately, having fulfilled me, now only he and I were left in the whole family. "Don't worry, little sister. I'll support you. Even if I have to risk my life. I'll make that bitch and scoundrel pay for their crimes with their own blood." While I was touched, a great idea suddenly popped into my mind. You don't have to risk your life. As long as you can sacrifice yourself a bit and win the heart of that old woman. My brother was immediately stunned on the spot. "It's not that I'm being heartless on purpose. It's just that for the house we're living in now, the house for which I'm paying off the mortgage alone, the property certificate is in Gwen's name. A honey trap is the best way for an old widow like her." While my brother was playing hard to get with Gwen, he also didn't forget to ask his group of good brothers to find out where Zachary was hiding. In order to be able to live an easy life in the future, he really went all out. He actually lived incognito in a crematorium where few people went. If it weren't for the fact that Sandy went to the crematorium an alarmingly large number of times, I really wouldn't have thought that the cowardly Zachary would be hiding there. I had someone install a bug outside that semi-basement. Then I heard Sandy moaning cacophenously, "When will we be able to get out of here?" "Brother, don't worry. At most, it'll be a month. As soon as that shrew pays back the 500,000 yuan, I'll immediately buy you that LV bag you like the most." I almost vomited when I heard that. It's hateful that in my last life, I was so stupid that I sold my blood and eggs, worked non-stop like crazy, and gave this money to them. I even thanked those burly debt collectors with gratitude. I even knelt down and kowtowed to thank them for their so-called kindness and righteousness. So now, seeing a group of burly men with tattered arms filling the room, I just find it ridiculous. Things that can be solved with money are not really problems. I came straight to the point and asked, How much did Zachary pay you? I'll double it. In response, they just looked at each other in silence. I chuckled and continued to increase the price, triple it. Someone wavered and retorted, Zachary is dead, isn't he? What nonsense are you talking about? You know exactly what I'm talking about. 5 times. If you still can't do it, then forget it. Anyway, there will always be people who are eager to do it. The leading burly man exchanged a glance with the people around him and whispered to each other. Then he asked me back, how much do you know? I smiled but didn't answer. I just replied, tell him that I'm pregnant and threatened you with my life. And you didn't get a single penny. This is the deposit. They were used to bullying the weak. Seeing that I wasn't an easy target to manipulate and that I was generous, they patted their chests and said, don't worry. Since we've taken your money, we'll take care of things for you properly. As I expected, Zachary had endured so much humiliation for so long but didn't get a single penny. He completely lost his temper. That night, I was all over the trending topics. The evil daughter-in-law eats the sky-priced fruit that costs 800 yuan per jin, but drives the paralyzed mother of a hero to the street to beg. I was sitting on the sofa, holding a piece of durian and bossing Gwen around, showing my meanness. And on the overpass, Gwen had tears in her eyes, which made people feel sorry for her. There were pictures and videos. It was almost conclusive evidence. Many netizens rushed to the scene after hearing the news. They even dug out my personal information overnight. They also happened to dig out my husband who had owed 3 million yuan in usury and died heroically while saving someone. Is this how the mother of a hero is being trampled on? This woman is worse than a pig or a dog. She doesn't deserve to be a wife. This old lady is so pitiful. Where is the address? I'm like Lei Fang and want to show my love. It's just a piece of durian. It can't be considered a sky-priced fruit. Right? Besides, she's pregnant. It's not too much for her to eat it occasionally. Is it? That's right. Judging by her appearance, she's at least 3 months pregnant. The comment section was immediately divided into 2 camps. One side thought that although it was excessive, it was understandable. The other side thought that I was extremely wicked and didn't deserve to be a human being. Just at this critical moment, my mother-in-law, who didn't even know how to use mobile payment, actually started a live broadcast. In the camera, she was in tears, looking patient yet strong. Her appearance almost directly pinned me to the pillar of shame. Some people even went to the comment section of my former colleagues to slander me. But I just ignored it all. I just hoped that more people would give Gwen rewards. After all, the bank card she fraudulently linked to receive the rewards was mine. The public opinion was getting bigger and bigger. Even some media wanted to interview Gwen. Jade, Mom is just telling the truth. But those netizens only see the bad side and don't listen to the good side. Mom has no choice. I nodded understandably. We live our own lives. Don't care what others say. So, having fulfilled my say, you agreed to let the media come to our house? Perhaps because of the shadow of the past incident. She carefully peeked at my expression through the crack of the door. After seeing that I didn't show any signs of flying into a rage, she finally opened the door with a sigh of relief. You're still young and should dress up nicely. This is a gift from Mom. It suits you. As she spoke, she put 2 extremely heavy gold bracelets on my wrists. I didn't expect that my brother really had some tricks up his sleeve. With just a few words, he actually persuaded this old woman to spend so much money. After seeing with her own eyes that I was dressed elegantly, brightly, and beautifully, having fulfilled me, she finally felt relieved and dressed herself up like a maid. Her messy hair, wrinkled and weathered face, tattered clothes full of patches, and a pair of old lady's cloth shoes that seemed to have been dug out from nowhere made her look like an old woman in her 80s or 90s who was on the verge of death. She answered the questions from the media without revealing the slightest flaw. However, every time before answering, she would pretend to be humble and glance at my expression. I was watching the live broadcast on my phone. A flood of abuse came at me. But I just curled the corners of my mouth in a place where the camera couldn't see. Seeing that I was silent, the reporter suddenly called on me. Some netizens are speculating that you're pregnant. Is that true? I gently touched my belly with a loving look and said, I'm already 3 months along. My husband will bless him from heaven. Gwen instinctively retorted. Didn't you say you just gained weight recently? I explained considerately. In the first few months. It wasn't stable. I was afraid it would delay you from earning money to pay off the debts. So I didn't mention it. I wanted to give you a surprise. Gwen's face instantly turned as ugly as if she had eaten a fly. After hurriedly sending the reporters away, she flew into a rage. Whose shameless bastard are you carrying in your belly? I blinked my eyes innocently. What are you talking about, Ma? This is your own grandson. Zachary's posthumous child. Impossible. Why is it impossible? You don't know about the affairs between us husband and wife. At first, I told her that the pregnant persona could make others feel more pity for us. The orphan and the widow. So she always thought I was faking the pregnancy. She never expected it to be real. At this moment, she stared viciously at my belly, as if she wanted to devour me alive. Netizens always show more tolerance towards pregnant women. Many netizens immediately switched sides and stood with me. Seeing that the situation was getting out of their control, and coupled with the shame of being cuckolded, Zachary, in a fit of anger, came back regardless of everything. You venomous woman. You actually had an affair with some other man while I was away. Tell me, whose bastard is in your belly? Zachary came in a menacing manner and directly pinned me, who was completely unprepared, against the doorframe and choked my neck viciously. With tears in my eyes, I stroked his face and said in disbelief, Zachary, is that you? Am I dreaming? You finally came back to see me? Are you going to take me with you now? That's great. Every moment without you is torture. Our family of 3 can be reunited soon. I closed my eyes as if resigned to my fate, and there was still a relieved smile on my lips. Seeing that I was about to roll my eyes, a delicate voice suddenly rang in my ear. Zachary, let go quickly. If she dies, we won't be better off either. Zachary regained his senses and threw me to the ground. You crazy woman. It's too easy for you to die now. I belatedly struggled to get up, coughed several times with tears streaming down my face, and looked up in a daze, with an expression of disbelief. This isn't a dream. Zachary. Is it really you? You're not dead? That's great. You're still alive. I was so excited that I babbled, crying and laughing at the same time. The adulterous couple whispered softly. Is that true, crazy? Their voices were not too low, but I just pretended not to hear. I grabbed Zachary with an excited expression and stood in front of the phone. Everyone. It's great. Heaven has eyes. My husband is alive. It turned out that the live broadcast room, which originally had only a few hundred people, had actually attracted hundreds of thousands of people before we knew it. Zachary was completely stunned. Thanks to Zachary, our family was on the trending list again. And with the previous groundwork, the popularity remained high. Within a few days, almost everyone in the country knew that the hero who saved people had miraculously come back to life. There were various speculations about the reasons behind it. There were countless people coming to see the living dead every day, and he couldn't even go out, so he had no choice but to explain the situation to the national audience. Hello, everyone. I'm the hero who saved people that you've been talking about, Zachary. A month ago, I saved a person who fell into the Danjong River. But I couldn't climb back onto the shore due to exhaustion. I only remember that I was in a coma for a long time. When I woke up, I was in a desolate mountain area. It took a lot of effort for me to finally get home. But my family thought I had died without a body. So they held a funeral for me with tears in their eyes. I'm sorry for occupying public resources because of my personal matter. Zachary spoke rationally and emotionally, with tears in his eyes. Unfortunately, fortunately, netizens aren't fools. Let's just wait and see how things develop. For a while, Zachary received a continuous stream of invitations. His previous company didn't mind that he had been absent from his post for a long time. They supported him to go back to work and even planned to promote him and give him a raise. Unfortunately, he was blinded by fame and fortune and resolutely resigned from his job to start live streaming and selling goods. Thanks to the gimmick, He accumulated a large number of fans. He even pretended to be a good husband and a good father. For the sake of some popularity, he gritted his teeth and admitted the child in my belly. But secretly, he threatened me arrogantly, saying, "There can only be one child in the Zachary family. And that's Vilium. If you still have any shame left, abort the child in your belly yourself. In that case, I can reluctantly let you have a bed to sleep in, considering Vilium and our mother. Otherwise, I'll divorce you right now." Divorce? It will happen sooner or later. But it's not the right time yet. I quickly bowed and scraped and promised. But when Vilium was mentioned, my eyes couldn't help but flicker. "Actually, there's something I haven't told you. I gave Vilium away." "What? You damned woman. I think you don't want to live anymore." As he said that, Zachary was about to swing his to lap me. But he was as stupid as a pig and not as agile as me, who had lost more than 20 pounds. By accident, he tripped and fell to the ground, hitting his head and bleeding. I suppressed my laughter and explained, "You don't know. The child's father is not a decent person." Zachary didn't even bother to wipe the blood and asked tentatively, "Do you know who the child's father is?" "He's a murderer with mental illness." Impossible. I didn't believe it at first either. It wasn't until I did a paternity test. If you don't believe me, look. I always thought that this adulterous couple had been together for a long time. But later I found out that Sandy not only took a fancy to Zachary, this stupid pig, but also had an affair with a madman with mental illness. Even this child belonged to that madman. But just at that time, the madman was imprisoned for manslaughter by negligence. Sandy knew that she couldn't afford to raise the child on her own. So she set her sights on Zachary. After a few times of playing hard to get and having an affair with him, she made Zachary voluntarily wear the cuckold. Now that the madman has been released from prison, it's time to let them fight each other. The facts were right in front of him. But Zachary still didn't believe it and stubbornly insisted on going to find out. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my inception, if he went at this moment, he would just happen to witness a big scene. Finally, having fulfilled my FI, things turned out as I had hoped. Zachary was beaten half to death and was admitted to the hospital. I showed great concern, served him tea and water, and took care of him for several days. Zachary finally had an epiphany. "Wife, I was blinded by greed before. It was only after this happened that I realized that you're the only good woman in the world. Even my mother can't be trusted. I haven't seen her face at all during these days." But when his eyes fell on my belly, he suddenly became furious. I quickly explained, "This is really your child. Don't you remember? That night when you were drunk, I took care of you?" Zachary was skeptical and started trying to recall. Seeing this, I forced out to tears. "If you really don't believe it, you can prove it after the child is born. I didn't say anything before because I didn't want to tie your heart down with the child. But now that you've changed your mind, I don't want there to be any misunderstandings between us." I spoke with great sincerity. My voice choked with sobs. Zachary, who already felt guilty, instantly believed most of what I said. He smiled and came forward to hug me in his arms. "Silly girl. What are you talking about? You're my wife. How could I not believe you? By the way, you've changed a lot these days. You're very different from before." I sighed and touched my belly full of fat. This is what it's like to be pregnant. But actually, I felt secretly pleased. It seemed that my exercise and diet for weight loss during this period had been effective. I used to be nearly 200 pounds and 1.6 meters tall, standing next to Zachary, who was 1.7 meters tall and 300 pounds. I looked like his brother. Tired of my disheveled appearance, he couldn't help but be attracted to the glamorous Sandy. That's how the two of them later colluded with each other. This time around, I'm losing weight, not for others, but for myself. Everyone knows that the e-commerce business makes money. Zachary's live streaming and selling goods business is booming. Naturally, having self-doubt, there are people who are green with envy. Since Zachary caught Andy having an affair with her mentally ill boyfriend, she completely showed her true colors. "You shameless bastard. I can't even afford my next meal now. But you're doing great. Making a fortune and having a loving marriage. I wonder who was the one back then. Unfortunately, heading fortunately. Sandy's words were viciously interrupted by Zachary before she could finish. What nonsense are you talking? You promiscuous woman. Don't force me to call the police. Call the police? Fine. I'll let the police judge who's talking nonsense and has a heart full of bad intentions. Let your brainless good wife see what kind of person she's married to. I looked at Zachary, who was sweating profusely, feeling confused. As the saying goes, the barefoot don't fear the ones wearing shoes. Now that Sandy has nothing, she naturally has ways to threaten Zachary, who has gained both fame and fortune. Sure enough, when he came back, he knelt on the ground without saying a word. Wife, I'm sorry for you. It turned out that Sandy had threatened him with the chip of his self-directed and self-acted hero-saving incident, demanding 3 million yuan from him. Otherwise, she would let the whole world know his true face. Live streaming can indeed make money. But he didn't have 3 million yuan at all. He cried so disgustingly. I turned my eyes away and comforted him, saying, now that things have come to this, there is still one way. That is, we get a divorce. She is a woman. And I know she likes you. If you two get married and share both fortune and hardship, she will naturally not bring it up again. Zachary fell silent. After thinking for a long time, he grabbed my hand with tears in his eyes. Then what about you? I sighed and squeezed out to tears as if resigning myself to fate. I have no father or mother. Not even a relative. It's easy for me to make arrangements. But I'm worried that Sandy will turn on you once she gets what she wants. She might marry you first and then divorce you just for your money. All your hard work will be in vain. Zachary looked at me for a long time. Just when I thought he had noticed something, he suddenly laughed a few times. My wife. You're so smart. What won't that bitch do? I'll give you half of the more than 1 million yuan I've earned these days. And the other half to our mom. Even if that bitch gets my person, she will never get my heart. I will only love you forever. I pretended to be nauseated by morning sickness and rolled my eyes. Then I immediately took out a contract and asked him to sign it. Our child can't suffer with me. Sign this. No matter what. You have to admit that this child is your own. After all, you're a person who can achieve great things. What if you become successful and then deny your son? My flattery made him feel so proud. He signed the contract without even looking at it. His life and death were uncertain. 3 days later, I got the divorce certificate as I wished. And my brother lived up to expectations and got the property transfer document and hundreds of thousands of yuan more from Gwen. The bullets have been flying for so long. It's time to strike the final blow. Zachary secretly got a marriage certificate with Sandy without telling the netizens across the whole network and made her his assistant live streamer. But just when they were frantically adding product links, and news that the hero had turned into a coward became a trending topic. At first, people didn't believe it. After all, no one wanted to slander a hero who sacrificed himself to save others. But all kinds of evidence left them no choice but to believe. Until the reason for his coming back to life was revealed. Netizens were completely stunned. So, this scumbag man faked his death just to live an easy life. He left his illegitimate child and his paralyzed mother to his wife to take care of. And he himself has been living an upside-down life with his mistress in the crematorium day and night. Big socks. Is this even Chinese? Upstairs. It's true. Moreover, the person involved and the mistress were best friends for 10 years. And this child was born to the mistress and someone else. It was as if aliens had invaded people's brains and done some outrageous things, making the deceived netizens furious. Zachary's short video account was blocked. Netizens simply didn't accept the things he had sold and returned them on the pretext of the 7-day no-reason return policy. Due to breaching the contract, Zachary was blacklisted across the whole network. In an instant, he fell from the peak to the abyss. It seemed that he couldn't accept the gap, so he actually came to me and begged. Jade, believe me. All those words and things are false. Please go out and say something for me. Just one sentence. No matter what. You have to think about the child in your belly. What child? I looked at him with a smile. Now I've even developed tape pack ABS. There's no excess fat left. He must be getting old and his eyesight is failing. Zachary wiped his eyes in disbelief. Where's the child? Where's our child? I asked back in confusion. Wasn't our child already killed by you a long time ago? Moreover, you will never be able to have a child again. Haven't you noticed that? For a father like Zachary, not having a child is also a kind of kindness. The reason why I endured the nausea and took care of him for so long was precisely to do him a great favor and sterilize him painlessly. Zachary suddenly realized and stared at me viciously. You're behind all of this? You've known all along that I didn't die back then. He seemed to have never expected that he, who had always been smart, would be played around by a housewife like me. He was so angry that he started cursing. You vicious woman. You deserve to have no father or mother. I'm telling you. Your parents are truly sinners through the ages. How could they give birth to such a bitch like you? Unfortunately, having forsaudly. Before he could finish his words, my brother punched him and knocked him to the ground. This must be your lover. Just wait. I'm going to expose you. I laughed heartily. You're really going to be disappointed. Thanks to you, I've not only found my relatives, but also my parents love me very much. But it seems that your mother doesn't love you very much. Otherwise, she wouldn't have given me this house and hundreds of thousands of yuan. As a matter of reciprocity, I've also prepared a big gift for you. Just then, the real debt collectors came. I borrowed 3 million yuan in usury in Zachary's name. Now if he can't pay it back, I'm afraid he'll just have to be dismantled and sold off. This coward. He was so scared that he burst into tears after just a few blows. I found it quite pleasing to the eye. Coincidentally, I remembered something. I forgot to tell you. That child was indeed yours. But it's a pity that you two will probably be separated by life and death in the future. Zachary was so angry that he jumped up and down and cursed me, wishing me a bad death, but I didn't care at all. Is there any more feel-wronged and pent-up death in this world than the one I had in my last life? Because Zachary and Sandy were husband and wife. She also had a share of the 60 million yuan loan. The two of them were unable to repay it. So they were sent to the industrial park together. If they can't pay it back while they're alive, they can still be dismantled and pieced together after they die. After Sandy's ex-boyfriend was released, he found our former home. Now there was only a paralyzed old woman living there. To be honest, a mentally ill person really doesn't have much patience. But obviously, Gwen didn't realize this. Knowing that she was at a disadvantage, she still taunted the mentally ill person sharply. In the end, she was stabbed dozens of times. This crime scene was just captured by the surveillance camera I installed. The young man with mental illness was going to repeat his old trick and try to escape legal punishment by relying on his mental illness. Unfortunately, having fulfilled my, it was obvious from the surveillance that he was perfectly sober when he had an episode. In the end, he was sentenced to death. As for Vilm, I still couldn't be so generous to him. So I let him continue to live in the welfare institution. And because of my beautiful appearance, strong will, and tragic experiences, I gained a group of female fans. Every day, I live stream and led them to do exercises. The end of the full text.